Hey folks, Brian here with the Coastal Patrol Cub, and today we are going to be doing the engine preservation step. Since the airplane is obviously going to be parked for quite a while we're doing all this work, it's important to do some corrosion prevention on the engine and properly prepare it for storage. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So the overall process is we're going to be draining the existing engine oil out of the airplane, adding a special oil with additive that it'll have corrosion prevention. We're going to run the airplane up to temperature for about an hour. The service bulletin from Continental does say fly the airplane for an hour. Obviously, that is not a possibility for us today, so we're just going to run it on the ground, but we are going to run it hard and make sure we get it up to operating temperatures. It's a pretty warm day today, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and pull the spark plugs. We're going to be spraying corrosion prevention into all the cylinders, adding desiccant plugs to each cylinder, and then also desiccant packs inside the intake and the exhaust of the airplane, taping it all up. And that will be the overall process to get it set for storage. So you can see what we have here is the Tanis Aircraft Products Engine Preserving Kit. This one is the -4 model number. See that here on the box. They sell it in a 4-cylinder version and 2-cylinder version that just changes the number of desiccant plugs you get, as well as it might change some of the quantities in there. I'm not completely sure, but it definitely changes the number of desiccant plugs that you get. Contains almost everything that you need in order to pickle your engine. The one thing it does not contain is the engine oil you'll be using. Now they do have, and I'll get into it here in just a bit, they do have an additive that goes into the oil, but they don't include the oil itself. You have to buy this separately. You can see this is Aeroshell 100, not W100, a little bit harder to get. I did manage to find some locally at one of my FBOs, but they only had 6 quarts, which is good because I only need 4. Actually, I probably only needed 3, but I bought 4 just in case. The key is you need SAE J1966 spec. All right, so this is basically pure mineral oil, ashless dispersant, and by adding the additive to this oil, you get the stuff that is approved, meets the standard for pickling engines for both Continental and Lycoming. All right, so we have the engine preservation kit, so I'll go through what we got in here. First things first, that additive I was telling you about. So this is what's going to get added to the oil that's going to go in the engine when we do the pickling procedure. Spray bottle with the, what do they call it? Nox Rust VCI 105 engine protectant. That's going to get sprayed in the cylinders after we pulled the spark plugs out. We've got flag to put on the propeller, you know, engine preservation date, some of those things. The documentation, registration, list of components in here. These are desiccant packs that are going to get put in a couple of places in the engine, taped in. There's, I think, 3 of these here if I see. And then some duct tape and some red flags for taping in the desiccant packs, and then, you know, obviously flagging where the packs are so that you make sure you remove those before you run the engine later. And last but not least, the desiccant plugs. These things are pretty cool. I'll pull one out here for you. So what they are, it is a color changing silica gel in there. So you can see it's blue right now. As this gets saturated with humidity, they'll change to pink. And that's how you know you need to deal with this. And what I mean by deal with this, I'll talk about here in just a second. But anyway, you remove the cap here. There is a filter in there so air can pass through, but obviously the silica is not going to get out of your cylinder. These are going to replace 4 of your spark plugs to help absorb the moisture that would be sitting in the cylinders. You're supposed to check these every 15 days while the engine is preserved to make sure that that color has not changed. If it has, there's a couple of things you can do. Let's see if I can get this one. There we go. So these unscrew from the housing. And you see there's a little plug. You can remove that. So you can buy this silica gel on Amazon. It's very cheap. You can get a bottle, you know, that will keep you replenished for who knows how long for pretty cheap. But you can actually essentially recharge the desiccant. So if you put this, I will have to look up the numbers, but you can put it, what I do is I put it on a plate in the microwave for 5 seconds at a time, and it dries the humidity out. They change color back to blue, and they are good to go again for the desiccant, because I use this for some 3D printing stuff as well. But yeah, so for these plugs, they're going to go in, and again, you check them every couple of weeks to make sure that they're still blue, because once they've gone pink, then they're not absorbing any more moisture. So you definitely want to make sure that if they have gone pink, that you take care of them. Swap out the desiccant or recharge it, whatever you need to do, so that they can continue to absorb moisture for you. And then keep a log that you're doing that. And that is the contents of the kit. Okay, so getting set to do the engine preservation. Not going to do it today, but I'm at least getting some stuff prepped. Got the eyebrows removed from the airplane for easy access. Already got the engine oil drained. Going to be adding, this is the preservation additive that gets added to the oil. It gets added in a 1-to-3 ratio. So 1 quart of this to 3 quarts of the Aeroshell 100 SAE J1966. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a quart of this in to start, then take the additive and add it into the empty quart bottle that I just emptied, and then add the rest of it in. So that is the plan for today, and then we'll be all set to do the rest of the preservation process later. And I think I mentioned it in the breakdown of the kit contents, but if I didn't, I'll say it again here. This Aeroshell 100 is kind of tricky to find. I lucked out. My local FBO had it. But if you're planning on doing this, I would definitely check your local FBOs first to see if they have it or not, or if they can get it for you. So that you can maybe save on paying shipping if they can get it ordered for you. But if not, it's not hard to get online, of course. Aircraft Spruce or anybody else carries it, but it's not a very common oil. And so I would not just assume that you're going to be able to find it locally. Like I said, I was fortunate that I could without too much running around. The first place I tried did not have it, but the second FBO I went to always has a pretty good supply of oil, and they carry a lot of oil, and they carry a lot of different kinds, and they only had 6 quarts of this stuff total. So I got lucky, but there we go. So there is the oil and additive in there. Again, I had already previously drained the old oil, which is frustrating. It wasn't that old. I only had maybe a couple hours on the since my last oil change prior to the annual where all this stuff came up. But the old oil is drained, the new oil and the additive is in. And the next step will be running the engine up to temperature. And then after that, we'll be misting the cylinders, which is why I removed the eyebrows, so that I already have easy access for pulling the plugs, misting the cylinders, and putting in the desiccant plugs that I showed earlier. So there we are for right now. So now we're at the point of running the engine. A couple of things to note here. As I mentioned previously, the service bulletin from Continental does say to fly the airplane for an hour to get the engine up to temperatures. Obviously, that's very difficult to do without any wings, right? So that is not an option for me. That being said, it's a warm day, so what I did was just ran the engine up till I got operating temperature on the oil. For me, it's about 180 degrees is pretty typical for what I see cruising around. So I ran the engine, got it up to 180 degrees on the oil temperature, and ran it at that power level for about an hour. Couple of things to note. So I did tie the control stick all the way back with the seat belts to try and help keep the tail down on the ground. However, with the weight of the wings off the airplane, as well as the fact that I was not sitting in the airplane, the tail definitely wanted to come up. So you might be able to see in the video, but I actually have a very large steel beam that I grabbed that's below the tail of the airplane and strapped onto the tail of the airplane. Obviously, I have chocks in both the mains. I have my parking brake set,
and I was very cautious on pushing the power up. So those are a couple of things that I had to do to keep the airplane nice and secure. The other thing that kind of caught me by surprise, I wasn't really thinking about it, is the top window, the skylight on the airplane, without the fairings that are normally there between the window and the wings up front, the prop wash was catching the corners of that window and trying to pull it up. So I actually, with the engine running, went up and put on some duct tape on there to kind of hold those corners down to keep that thing from flexing too bad and breaking. But other than that, again, the main idea was just run the engine. I ran it about 1800 RPM, seemed to give me about 180 degrees on this particular day. Got it up to temperature, ran it at a full hour at that temperature to achieve the spirit of the guidance, if not the letter of the law, obviously, with not flying the airplane, but did the best that I could. So after shutdown, the first thing that I did was went ahead and removed all of the ignition leads from each of the spark plugs to get those out of the way.
Next, we're going to go ahead and start removing the spark plugs themselves. All right, so now that we've got all the plugs removed, what we're going to be doing is spraying the corrosion preventative in each of the cylinders. So what I'm going to be doing is using the flashlight, looking in there, move the prop until the cylinder's at bottom dead center, spray it all in there, and then move on to the next one. After you've hit each cylinder at bottom dead center, rotate the prop some more until none of the cylinders are at top dead center, and then go back and respray them all again, and then you're going to mark the prop to not move the prop anymore. So and of course I've already got checked that the key is out. Okay, bottom dead center, and I'm going to spray, and as many different angles as you can. All right. All right, so we've hit all the, I did 2 already, so I've hit all the cylinders at bottom dead center now. Go to all midway point there. Check. Make sure that's where we're at. All right. Now next, we got our desiccant plugs that I talked about before. Remove the cap from those. That opens up the desiccant. Shut that for right now. And those are going to go in the top cylinders. Just hand thread right in there. No problem. Probably should mention earlier, when you pull the plugs out, good idea to make sure that you're keeping track of exactly where the plugs came out from, so when it goes back together you can put the plugs in the same spot. How much does that matter? I don't know, but I know it's good practice. It's been taught to me. So next thing we're going to be doing is putting in these bags of desiccant that came in the kit. Now these bags, they are, this material is breathable. The desiccant's inside here. You don't open this package. This is how it's supposed to be. So I'm going to put one in the intake and one in the exhaust, tape it up and mark it, and seal everything up. And this is going to provide additional corrosion protection. So you can see I've removed the air filter here from the air box. I'm going to put this back in there and actually just put that back up and tape everything up, and then the other one's just going to go up the exhaust. So the other thing I forgot to mention, the kit does come with these streamers to mark the desiccant bag locations. So I am going to stick that in here as well. Make sure that there's not a gap there where the thing comes out. All right, so that's the ear box, and then of course you got carb heat intake as well. Write that down so the tape actually sticks. And we're gonna, so there's no need to put another desiccant bag in here because this is just connected to the intake, which has already got the desiccant in it. The Tanis kit does come with this duct tape for you. Showed that in the portion of the video where I unboxed the kit. Here we go. There is that. All right, I'll put our other desiccant bag up in the exhaust. I think to make it easy on myself, I'm just gonna tie this flag around the desiccant bag. So you're supposed to check the spark plug desiccant plugs every 15 days for a color change. If they've changed to pink, you've got to refresh the desiccant. I would say anytime you need to refresh the desiccant in the plugs, I would go ahead and change these bags out too. These are obviously carry a lot more desiccant than what the plugs carry, but still, if you're already opening it up and changing out the desiccant, you might as well. Right? So just like before, tape that all up nice. Now for those of you who are maybe not familiar with the Cubs, I'm going to move the camera here, make sure you can see. I don't know if you can see this this intake here. If you're wondering about that, that does not need to be anything. That is the intake for cabin heat. So there is this goes up to a mixer that comes off the exterior shroud of the exhaust, so nothing here connects internally to the engine.
I did forget to mention while recording the video, but I did do it later, I also taped up the crankcase breather tube as well.
So next thing, so I've got this marker that's going to go on the propeller. This again came with the kit. It is actually adhesive paper, so you just mark the preservation date on there. I'm gonna stick it right on the propeller so that anybody else knows not to turn the prop. All right, so one last thing I got to do. The one complaint I have about the Tanis kit, it says on the listing that it has everything that you need minus the oil. That's not quite true. So if you read the Continental service bulletin on preserving your engine, you're supposed to pull all the spark plugs, and in the bottom spark plug holes, there's a part number for a plastic plug that goes in there, rather than leaving the spark plug in. Tanis did not include those in the kit. I did not realize it until it was too late. I still need to get those plugs. In the meantime, what I'm going to do, I got to clean up the surface of the cylinder real quick with the this rag, and then I'm just going to be putting some duct tape over each hole to seal it up. If you need to do this, don't put the duct tape on while you still have to turn the propeller. You don't want to suck the duct tape in on accident. Not likely to happen if the other spark plug holes open, but you just don't want to risk it. So anyway, I'm going to clean this up real quick, and then I'm going to be putting a little bit of duct tape over each of the bottom spark plug holes to seal those up for now. And again, this is not intended as a permanent solution for me. This is simply a stopgap for now to keep the cylinder sealed up as best I can until I get the plastic plugs to go in there. So don't take this as the proper way to do things necessarily for a permanent solution. The bottom spark plug holes are in here between the lifters, and not very easy to reach, but it is manageable.
All right, so there you have it. That is everything that you need to do in order to preserve your engine in accordance with the Continental Service Bulletin with the Tanis Engine Preservation Kit. I would imagine for any other engine manufacturer it's probably very similar, if not identical. However, obviously I can only speak to what I did, which was follow the Continental Service Bulletin. There are instructions provided with the Tanis kit as well. And of course, you don't have to get the Tanis kit. You can get all of this stuff individually in accordance with the service bulletin for whatever your engine manufacturer is. That is the overall process, though. I hope this video has been helpful for you. As always, if you do like this, you could give the video a like and hopefully subscribe, follow along with the rest of the project that I have going on. But thank you for watching this far.